It's called 8. So do you need an intention for the sacraments? Well, maybe yes. Well, we hear in Catechism, for the sacraments you need matter, form, and intention. So because the sacraments can be used for several things. So you can use water in order to play. It's a very powerful thing. When I was a little kid, we were playing with water pistols, and I noticed that the water pistols had no range, no effective range, and they had no firepower. You had to go back to refill them. You had only a tiny little hole to refill them. Whereas there was those ketchup things. Ketchup bottles, at that time they were of this shape. And on top of it you could unscrew the top. On the Heinz, I think the Heinz provided these facilities. You just unscrew it and then you got a white thing, and because it's the dispensary, there's the exit is pretty big. You press that thing and you get a range of 20 meters. Alright. So I was able to spray all the other comrades. You see, and when they were spending lots of time refilling, while they were refilling, I was spraying them. And then there was also crowds. So I would stay on the crowd on that side, I would spray on the other side, and then several times, and then I move around and look at the devastation. It's massive. So in the end, some kids ran after me and put my head under the tap. So water can be used for other things than baptism. So you need to specify what you are going to use the water for, and that's called the intention. What the water is going to be used for. Otherwise, water has another use. So it's obvious that you need an intention, and that intention, says St. Thomas, is expressed by the words. So it must appear in the words that you say, and it's one of the guarantees for the validity of the sacrament. That the words of the sacrament must specify the intention. That's why we get so many difficulties with the words of the new Novus Ordo confirmation thing. Even though they say it's coming from Eastern Rite, where we see the gift of the Spirit is too vague. And the gift, it's not even the 7 gifts of the Spirit, because the Holy Spirit has more than one gift to give us. And it's so vague, so unclear. The words don't express whereas in the sacraments, the form of the sacrament helps the minister to have the intention. Same thing in the priestly ordination. Of course, the bishop laid down his hands on the ordinance, but while the other words of the form of the ordination are ambiguous, very similar to the Anglican rite of ordination. And so there is a problem, a serious problem. So, objection, Your Honor, you don't need the intention of the instrument. It's like the saw, would tell the master, all right, I'll cut the wood, but I'll be with you cutting wood. It's not the case. So, well, inanimate saw, yes, because the whole of movement depends of the principal agent. So the principal agent, you need the intention of the principal agent. So and that's why a murder is never attributed to a Kalashnikov, even though Mr. Kalashnikov indirectly has killed maybe 50 million people by his genius of making the best portable weapon in the universe. But it's inanimate, so he's not responsible for anything. Now he's selling peanuts, he's saying now I'm tired of warfare, he's about to die, and he says, no, I'm going to another line of business. Maybe he's dead, maybe he died this year, I don't remember. But anyways, it's an inanimate instrument. But the animate instrument He's moved by the principal agent, but also he moves himself. The priest, the human being, he's a priest he's a human being with two legs and a free will. So he can move himself, and he can put an obstacle to the action of the principal agent. So it's necessary that this instrument submits himself to the principal agent when he's doing what he does. And also, other objection: man must have the certitude of salvation, and if the intention of ministry is dubious, I don't have the certitude of my salvation. Well, St. Thomas says, in the words, the intention of the Church is expressed, and it's sufficient for the perfection of the sacrament, unless something contrary is expressed by the minister or the receiver. So St. Thomas tells us not to be too scared, because the words of the sacraments carry the intention. The priest has been told once or twice that this is what's going to happen. Well, but the priest was sleeping. Doesn't matter. The words are those things that carry the intention. The Mass becomes invalid only in something contrary is expressed by the minister or brought about by the minister. If he brings about something contrary, then it generates invalidity. So this statement of St. Thomas militates for the more assured validity of the sacraments, no matter how imperfect the ministers are. And across the centuries, there were so many masses that were said in a horrible, scandalous fashion. I'm not even talking about the new mass. I'm talking about the decadent clergy. Like, for instance, there was one time Talleyrand. Talleyrand is the one who sold all the goods of the Church of the French Revolution, stole everything, became a very wicked person, very much anti-Catholic. And when he was saying the Mass, because his parents forced him to become a priest and to become a bishop, because he was high in nobility. And during the Mass, he says, he had a nice vestment, he turned around and says, "N'est-ce pas que je suis beau? Am I not beautiful?" So that's the way Talleyrand was saying the Mass. His mind was far away from the celebration of the Mass. And one time I was horrified. I saw Cardinal Cushing, Archbishop of Boston, saying the Mass. And it's horrible the way the poor man was saying the Mass. Going around the altar, Dominus Vobiscum, it's conspirator, I was racing through the Mass. And there were, people, you got some people, some priests, in olden times, but sometimes it happens even in modern times. You say the Mass in 20 minutes, the traditional Mass in 20 minutes. There's a famous novel in French, short story by Alphonse Daudet about the priest. Is before the midnight Mass of Christmas, and there is a huge meal after the midnight Mass. And the thing is that he thinks only about the meals, whatever is the meats, the fish, the stuffed turkey, with the skin nice and crispy, and Alphonse gives all the culinary details, and everything is interspersed between the Kyrie eleison, the Gloria in Excelsis Deo, and then the poor man dies, at the end of the meal, because he ate so much. And then he goes through, because he was such a good priest, nevertheless, he's not going to hell, but he's going to do 300 years of purgatory. and then we have to say more masses and so forth. So there were, there are plenty of ministers who are very unworthy. And then also what you have is all the priests, the priests who are, they are 95 or, 157 years old. And they go through the canon of the Mass in a terrible, haphazard way. You say, you're always very scared when you get near the moment of consecration. How they're going to, say the Mass. They can't say the Mass anymore in public. so bad is the way they say the Mass, but they still say the Mass. So the instruments are extremely weak. That's why St. Thomas says the proper dispositions are left in the words themselves. Let the words take care of themselves to specify the intention of the minister. And only if the minister does expressly reverse his intention, does the Mass become invalid. So other objection, which is the same, sometimes ministers are not attentive, so therefore they don't have the intention. The priest was completely distracted at the moment of consecration. So he went through the consecration, then he woke up. Now, the consecration was made. So what happened? Is my Mass invalid? Must I turn around and apologize to the faithful and say the Mass is invalid? No, the words carry the intention. And also, you have two different intentions, the actual intention and the habitual intention. Like, Joseph Stalin, he didn't have the actual intention of massacring people every day, but he had the habitual intention of killing lots of people every day. Mao Zedong. So Mao Zedong is not fully aware that every day is killing 500,000 Chinese. That doesn't matter, He's got the habitual intention of massacring his kinfolk. Or, the people who decide the abortion laws in China, alright, they've tallied 400 million abortions. Well, when they signed that decree, that once the decree is signed, they are responsible for all these 400 million abortions, 500 million abortions now. In China, that's what you call habitual intention. They are now reversing that law. And in a sense, for the crisis of the Church, the crisis of the Church is ongoing. Benedict XVI, even though he's a nice guy, very nice, very traditional leaning, saying the traditional Mass probably in public, in a private, being favorable to the traditional Mass in public to some extent. Very nice, not wearing, Sioux plumes like John Paul II. Nevertheless, he's having the habitual intention of enforcing Vatican II. And so the crisis is not over. So there is the habitual intention and there is the actual intention. So the priest has the habitual intention. All the priests, it's guaranteed that all the priests of the SSPX have this habitual intention. I'm very surprised if it was otherwise. Otherwise, most probably they will be Satanists. But even the Satanists too wish to consecrate validly. So that's even there. It's pretty hard to have no intention. And then there's a question, Article 9. What about the infidel? Can the infidel consecrate the validly? Well, the infidel is such by his own power, and so St. Thomas says that he can confer the sacraments as long as he provides everything which is of the necessity of the sacrament. You see, as long as he does not pander with the form or the matter, then he consecrates validly.
But he said infidel.
Infidel is somebody who hasn't got the faith.
But it's a priest.
A priest, yes.
It's like a Freemason who is a priest.
Freemasons who is a priest, anti-communist infiltrator, and you name it.
So is it valid when you do it?
So St. Thomas says it can be valid, but we'll see there are maybe some more distinctions to be made.
Okay.
St. Augustine says that nothing an evil man can do can block the validity of a Mass, as long as it's done with the proper way that the Church wants. St. Augustine, there's an objection of St. Augustine himself, but he says that the faith directs the intention. All right, that's a problem we have with the new Mass. The new Mass refers to a different faith about the Blessed Sacrament, or it doesn't mention it, by omission. So the faith directs the intention. Well, St. Thomas says, not all infidels deny the faith of the sacraments. You have no orthodox priests who believe truly in a Blessed Sacrament, have a true devotion to the Blessed Sacrament. Like most of the Italian diocesan priests, most of them have the faith in the Blessed Sacrament, as far as I know. So, and then St. Thomas says, even the one who does not believe in the sacraments, as long as he has the intention to do what the Church does, and insofar as he is acting in the person of the Church, not ignoring what the Church intends, the faith of the Church in that case supplies to his intention, even there. So, a minister who does not believe that he consecrates invalidly, as long as he intends simply to do what the Church does. So he's a novice or the priest. He says, well, "This is the bread of the community. It can be anything." But I'm sent by the bishop to say the mass for these people. So I say mass for them. So he's saying the mass for what they expect the mass is. So he's doing what the Church intends to do. So in that case, even though he hasn't got the faith, he's got no faith. It's incredible. He's got no faith, but between his hands, the body and the blood and the soul and the divinity of our Lord, he is going to be validly consecrated. Because it's called this ecclesia supplet. We got the Church supplies. We apply this principle, for instance, for the consecration of 1988. This ecclesia supplet, the Church supplies whatever defect is present in case of necessity. And that's, of course, an absolute case of necessity.
Well,
Yeah.
even though the Novus Ordo priests do not say the consecration word.
Well, in that case, if he's putting himself an obstacle, and that makes the consecration invalid. And also, there is also the fact that if the priest hasn't got the faith, you are really playing the Russian roulette, as far as the mass is concerned, because nothing is not showing necessary. Because if the priest despises the sacrament, for instance, not only he hasn't got the faith, but then he's saying this is baloney, and I'm really careless about it, and I'm just there because of the money, or I really don't care. I don't want to consecrate anything. This is just nonsense. This could endanger the validity of the sacraments. But it seems that with the guidelines that St. Thomas says, you must be fairly hardcore modernist to consecrate invalidly. Because he admits the possibility that an infidel minister can consecrate validly, that the Church takes over. As long as he does it out of routine, because he's assigned to that job, and he's doing the job as being told to. He's being told by his bishop to say the Mass there, and he's doing it. Other objection from Pope St. Leo. St. Leo said that the sacraments, the light of the sacrament, is extinguished in the Church of Alexandria. St. Thomas says, yeah, as far as the thing of the sacrament, that is the divine grace, yes. But as far as the validity of the sacraments, no. So the light of the Church is extinguished in the schismatic Orthodox Church. There is no light of the sacrament there. So they consecrate validly, but their sacraments do not bring them grace. They could if they were in union with the Catholic Church and under the See of Rome, but they can't because they are cut off from the Church of Christ. So even though they consecrate and they perform all these 7 sacraments validly, none of these sacraments give them habitual grace, except the baptism of little babies.
So it's still a waste of time.
It's a complete waste of time.
But what about, like we all attend such a Mass and receive the sacrament, is it valid?
No, you're not allowed to receive sacraments from schismatics.
So you don't get actual grace and you don't simplifying grace. Let's say if you get mortal sin and they go to confession, it's valid, right?
The sacrament, the sacrament would, the confession is not valid, yeah. That is, the priest has the power to hear a confession, but he's he has no jurisdiction because he's not anymore receiving his jurisdiction from the church, and also he's penitent, and him remain in a state of sin. So all the sacraments are vain. I think he has a power, but that power can't affect the forgiveness of sin.
Can we say the same for the Sedevacantists?
Sedevacantists, it's not yet clear. You know? It's like the Novus Ordo. You need to have the hand of the Christ of the church to sort out everything. Because Sedevacantists, when you're talking about Sedevacantists, it's a myriad of different obediences and sects and doctrinal positions and tendencies. So, and then you already can't tell. But those sacraments, even though they are valid, they don't maintain grace there. Except, I would say, in the case of ordinations, they ordain priests validly. All the sacraments are valid, but they don't cause habitual grace, except the little babies. Other objection is the one quote of St. Augustine. But St. Augustine says, St. Augustine says, the heretics who do not keep the form of the church do not confer the sacrament nor the grace. And St. Augustine says that they accumulate pernicity, they accumulate wickedness with the baptism when they validly administer the sacrament. That is, they give you a combination of baptism and wickedness. Like just across here, you know, my room is here and there's a house there. So, that's nice, they got a swimming pool, you know, outside of the house. Did I tell you the story?
No.
Yeah.
I was, you know, my desk is facing the window, so I study on my desk. So I was one good afternoon was there. There was a crowd in the house on the other side. You know, I spy on my neighbors, but and we all with cameras and everything, a big crowd, cameras, and you know, big occasion. And I see one of them goes in its swimming pool, you know, that overlaps water, and it's like a swimming fish tank on this side. And then there's another guy comes with him and pinches his nose. And then sure enough, the guy takes him and started baptizing him. Just across our property, just 10 meters away from us. Good 10 meters, we've got a Protestant baptistry. So St. Augustine says they combine perniciousness with baptism, and also you may add ridiculousness. If I had my, I'm not using cameras anymore, but if I had my camera, I would have taken a shot. My jaw was dropping, you know.
If they use the right form, and if you use the right words, the right
It's valid.
the right form.
They get the character of a baptism. But you know, you never know. I mean, these evangelicals never know what they say or how if they follow. Because if they say, "I baptize in the Father and the Holy, the Son and the Holy Ghost," and it's invalid. So what do they say exactly? How do they do it? What I found really ridiculous is this pitching of the nose going down, and then they also put them backwards. You know, like Benny Hinn, you know, you fall backwards. That's an image of sin, you know. Falling backwards is an image of sin. Doesn't sound right. You know, normally, baptism by immersion, the Eastern Rite is like this. You see, immersion. But plunging backwards is for Olympics or whatever. So you may add to St. Augustine, it's not pernicity or perniciousness. They add the perniciousness and ridiculousness. That's for the heretics of the 21st century. It's like the Jehovah's Witnesses. They baptize your ancestors. Just give them the file. They baptize them on their computers. How? I don't know. I visited one time a Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormon temple, and they have the computers near the baptistry. So the guy on the computer looks at baptistry, and then you have 5 baptism, 5 computer screen, water screen. Enter. They're all baptized. That's the way the Mormons make their baptisms. And they have these massive baptisms. So they all, so we don't know whether it's valid or not. One scary thing that happened is when John Paul II came to Longchamp in Paris, and he had 10 people there, and he was in a great moment of fervor in the Hippodrome of Longchamp, with the youth of the world, and says, I baptize you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And 10 baptisms, all invalid, by the Pope. So, under the cameras. So, amazing, that they can do that. It's very scary. Because you have to combine the matter and the form. Otherwise, it's just spraying 10 people and telling them some nice words. That's it. So, the excommunicated people can't give the sacraments licitly, says St. Thomas, but the character remains. Validly, yes. So, very often you have the novice order priest, they don't know the distinction between licity and validity. So, very often they say, your sacraments, all of them are invalid. Or they make announcements on the microphone, don't go to their places, their sacraments are invalid. And we even have in India the case of the bishop says, their sacraments are licit, but not valid. As if the church would allow a priest to licitly give invalid sacraments. So that we had that. It's very interesting. And also they also have this dichotomy about the marriages, because the schismatic marriages are valid, but if you claim that we don't have the jurisdiction for marriages, then SSPX marriages are invalid. So you have to choose. Either we are schismatics or not. So if you are schismatics, all our marriages are valid. So stop saying that our SSPX marriages are invalid. But if you start to say that our marriages are invalid, then we are not schismatics. You understand? Let me explain. So you got, the schismatics, and you got the non-schismatics. So among the non-schis, those are the Catholics, those who have the jurisdiction, and those who have no jurisdiction. And the schismatics, they don't need their jurisdiction, they are always valid. Okay? Now, among the only is valid those who have jurisdiction. So, the Novus Ordo, they claim that we are schismatics. So, if we are schismatics, all our marriages are valid. If we are non-schismatics, then and no jurisdiction, they can say that our marriage is invalid. But they don't like that, because it's they don't like to say that. It's so easy for them to say they are schismatics. It's so easy. But the problem is, if they say that we are schismatics, our marriages are valid, are good marriages, and so everybody can come and marry to our place. All right. But they don't understand that distinction, and so that's basically it. So they don't know what to choose, and they are full of contradiction. What else did I want to say about the marriages? Yeah, some people, they go and marry with us, and say, oh, then they once they want to divorce, they say, oh, that's nice. The SSPX gives invalid marriage. So they go to the novice order court, and get the marriage broken. You see?
Null and void.
Null and void. Very convenient. So that's why we make people sign a form about the validity of our marriages. And also, yes, that's what I wanted to say. Look, there's a case of Campos. Campos said, Bishop Rangel and Bishop Rifan, they say, oh, we have to go back in the church because we are feeling so schismatics, outside the church. So they go back in the church. And they also said we didn't have the jurisdiction. So guess what? Rome did not try to convalidate any of their marriages. Which means that in a case we were non-schismatics with no jurisdiction, all our marriages were valid. Because these Campos priests have been making, without jurisdiction, marriages for over 30 years. And there was no convalidation from Rome. Or maybe there was a secret occult convalidation that nobody knows about. You see? Don't tell anyone that your marriage now is valid. Good. So it's a complete chaos. And they don't know what to think about us. The canonists at least. Because it's full of contradiction. So when you meet a novice order, you got to tell him you pick and choose, whether I'm schismatic or not. You got to think. And then 10th article, perverse intention. There's wicked intention. So does it take away the truth of the sacraments? With respect to the sacraments, if the minister does not intend to give the sacrament, but to do something out of derision, especially when he manifests it exteriorly, clown masses and everything, well, that takes away the validity of the sacraments. When he intends not to confer validity. But with respect to what follows the consecration, for instance, the Black Mass, then the priest who consecrates for a Black Mass consecrates validly. Because what happens later is not going to backwardly come back and eat up the intention. You see? So in Black Mass, usually the priest brings the host and performs the Black Mass. So the intention, objection, the intention of the minister must conform to the intention of the church. And the intention of the church is always straight. Yes?
Now they have removed the ex-con. So now our marriages are valid.
No, this removal is a removal of something that was not existent. So that's why we have problem with this removal as well. Because we are not condemned in the first place. We just say, oh, it's very nice of you to consider us non-schismatics now. It's very nice. Makes me feel good. I kept my sleep all the days before. So we don't consider that this removal is serious. There is an implied lie in that removal. There's something implied that it implies that Archbishop Lefebvre was validly punished for what he did. So that's why that removal leaves a bad taste. Like whatever Benedict XVI does, there's always a confusion somewhere. It's like he's taking back the Anglicans in, but he's doing it because there are seeds of the Word of God, in the richness of the Anglican communion. So he's saying, I'm taking you in not because you were outside of the church, I'm taking you in because you have treasures that belongs to the Holy Ghost. And that the Catholic Church will be so much enriched by your Anglican exuberance, your long services and your married clergy and all that. So I'm taking this richness in, all right. That's what is the case for it, because he's saying because the Anglicans were telling him, yeah, you are trying to convert us, you are trying to do proselytism against us. And she said, no. I'm just, you have great riches, and I just want to take that richness, and since you have such a willingness to join us and express the unity of Christ, unity of the Church of Christ, that they may be one and everything. So no, this is completely different from the approach, the negative approach of the old times, where yes, the Catholics were narrow-minded and thinking they were only the one true church. No, I'm just taking in the vast expanse of richness that your communion has. So so it gives a taste. All right, it's taking in the Anglicans. That's nice, but we are not yet there. Christ is not yet over. It's, and he's taking them in because they were already banging on the door of the church. I guess many more would have joined the church if we were not in a crisis. But there, for novice ordo, if you really tell them, take me in the church, otherwise I'll kill you, then they usually take you in. But short of that, you're gonna have lots of interreligious dialogues and training sessions and things like that. So when they take the candidates for baptism, it takes forever. Adult baptism, it takes forever and ever to be pronounced fit for baptism. It takes 3 years to train to get baptized. So no, we should not lose our sleep on this thing. And this creates this removal creates kind of confusion. But what is nice is that it creates also confusion in the novice ordo, because now they don't know what we are now, because they have not studied their books. So technically, according to some canonists in Rome, we are not schismatics, we are not excommunicated, but we are not yet in full communion. It's not full communion yet. It's like now their notion of communion is that there's a before there was the Catholic Church, the ark, the ark of Noah. Now, if you are outside of this ark, you are in the water. You are outside the church, then very soon you're going to drown, or you are unless you are drowned already. But now the notion of the novice order of the church is layers. So there's the Catholic Church, properly speaking, the core of the Catholic Church, but the Church is also that, and the Church is also that, and also that, and also that. And then here you've got the atheists. You got Osama bin Laden. You got Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong. All these people, but there's also a layer right there. And if somebody tries to get even worse than these people, Judas is there. And it's really, Judas is really trying to go this way. He's got another layer that's going to encompass him. All these people are anonymous Christians. And one of the, whether they like it or not, they're going to go to heaven. No matter how hard they try, they will go to heaven. Because the church is, it's also on Balthazar, all these theologians, they say, you cannot circumscribe the notion of the church in a narrow concept. They want to be inclusive. They have this inclusive concept. And all the concepts in modernism have a geometry which is variable, like the wings of the fighter jets. If they go supersonic, the wing goes this way, or then change. So all the concepts are, like chewing gum. They can change enlarge the concepts, do everything with the concept. And that's a big problem, because when we are talking with them, then in the end we restart the debate after a while. Because the concepts are phenomenology. For them, concepts, ideas are not realities, they are perceptions. So everything is variable. So nobody is outside the church for them. So what's our status? Well, our status, the Lefebvreans, Probably somewhere around here, you know, in those periphery, or we are maybe here, and maybe we got some of us over here, but they don't know, or maybe here on the fringe, somewhere, we are somewhere here. We got probability rate somewhere here, you know. So Bishop Williamson is there. We are here. You know, that's where we are. So they can say, sometimes they can say, you are in the church. Like the Cardinal Ratzinger, you know, before he was the Pope, he said to the faithful in Hawaii, you fulfill your Sunday obligation in the SSPX Mass Centers. So they say it sometimes. But other times, unfortunately, you have technical problems, so you don't have a full jurisdiction. Or you still have, you are still suspended. The suspension, the bishops are still suspended because, you know, they have not reached a full canonical agreement with Rome. But they never say clear cut, you know. They always keep their both options open. The problem, and the problem is for their theory, because they say that we are outside the Catholic Church. Now, where do they put the Greek Orthodox, the Lutheran, the Protestants, who are supposed to be in the Church of God since the Council of Vatican II? That's a big problem. So they can't put you know all the Protestants, Satanists, Voodooists, Muslims here, and the poor left and rights, thinking about the That does not make any sense. So because they want to take everybody in, and now what they say, that's very nice because you're pretty close. Try to be the harder, you'll be in the church, be in full communion. It's because they have, the concepts are elastic, They do, some exercise every day with those concepts. The concepts are, take the concept, whatever concept, take the concept of eternal damnation, and they can say, oh yeah, eternal damnation is, it's terrible, the malice that man can have to himself. That's what eternal damnation means. You see? Or, this earthquake in Haiti, that's eternal damnation, the materialism is eternal damnation. But it will not mean what eternal damnation means. So you can't, it's very hard to corner them. Because they will always agree with you. And so that's for the question 64.
Father, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The host, the
big host.
Yeah, is it valid?
It's ridiculous in the first place. But it's probably valid. But as Augustine, it's validity and malice. So it's a valid malice, It's like very pious. The Metropolitan of Moscow, who was put in charge by Joseph Stalin, says his mass very piously. Very pious. Looks very valid. Probably valid. But still, he's doing the work of Comrade Stalin. He is valid, but that's not going to profit him. It's like the comparison is that the many Catholics receive communion instead of sin. Everything is valid, but of no profit. Because the main thing of the sacrament we look after is what's called St. Thomas calls the res sacramenti, the thing of the sacrament, the thing that the sacrament brings, which is divine grace. That's what the main thing. You see, there is liceity, there is validity, liceity, and also the effect of the grace that you receive. So, and that's the main thing for the sacraments. And there are only a few today that profit from the full effect of the sacraments. At least as far as baptism is concerned. Because most of the baptized people, half of them now are non-Catholics, and among the Catholics, how many are living a Christian life. It's a big problem. It was bad always in the past, but now it's worse than ever before. But that's why thanks to the fight of tradition, we have kept the proper dispensation of the sacraments, and it's a miracle. Everything should have been destroyed, and was not. All right, no other questions.